From a small fish that doctors found swimming in a young boy's bladder, to a man that came back from an amazing vacation only to find out he had maggots under his scalp. We take a look at 10 of the craziest things ever found in the human body. Number 10. Maggots. Aaron Dallas decided to take a vacation to Belize in the spring of 2007. His travels went pretty well, with no major problems to report along the way. But upon his return to the United States, Aaron started noticing some bumps on his scalp. After visiting some specialists, he was first told that it could be shingles or even insect bites. That is, until they saw the bumps were moving. After a closer look, doctors found 5 maggots alive in his scalp. He had a feeling something wasn't right when he could feel the bumps moving around, but he thought it was just small pockets of blood until the specialist discovered the maggots. Number 9. Small pea plant. Ron Sveden had developed emphysema in early 2010. His energy was down and he was coughing a lot. After checking in with a doctor, Ron waited an agonizing 10 days for his results to come back from the lab. He was concerned he may have cancer, but it turns out the results showed anything but a tumor. There was a small growth inside of him, but instead of a tumor, it was actually a small pea plant. Obviously, this is quite unusual, and although they're unsure, doctors are guessing that the pea was accidentally inhaled. And since your lungs are warm and humid, they actually provide ideal conditions for a pea plant to sprout. Glad he was able to avoid chemotherapy, Ron had the plant surgically removed and ended up being just fine. Number 8. Nail in the brain. As a result of an unfortunate incident, Dante Otullo accidentally shot himself with a nail gun. What's worse, he shot himself in the head. Whether it was a result of the brain injury or not, Dante was apparently not even smart enough to go to the hospital right away, waiting 36 hours before getting it taken care of. Actually, it wasn't really his fault. It's not like Dante didn't check his head when the incident happened. The nail was 9 centimeters long, but when it entered his cranial cavity, it only left a small scratch on the surface, so everyone, including Dante, believed that the nail had actually missed him. He took a nice relaxing nap, thanking his lucky stars, but when he woke up, he had severe headaches and nausea. He finally decided to go to the doctor, which is where he found out the truth of what happened. Number 7. 30 magnets. After complaining of terrible stomach aches, an 8-year-old child was rushed to the emergency room. As any good doctor would do, they took x-rays of her abdominal cavity. Doctors were shocked to find out that she swallowed at least 30 magnets. What was even worse for the little girl is that magnets attract each other, so they were actually moving around inside her belly. The shifting of the magnets was tearing different organs to pieces. So what would make a little girl swallow 30 magnets? Apparently, she had licked the surface of a magnet and found she liked the taste. So, one by one, down the hatch. I guess this girl was into heavy metal. Number 6. Live worm. As if extreme symptoms consistent with a brain tumor weren't bad enough, when Rosemary Alvarez was raced to the neurological ER, specialists prepped to perform brain surgery on her. What they found blew her mind. No pun intended. They were amazed to find a living worm inside the woman's brain. So how does a worm get inside the brain of a human being? If you have a weak stomach, you may want to cover your ears for a moment. The most likely scenario was that at some time, somewhere, someone served Rosemary food that had been smeared with the feces of a person who was infected with the pork tapeworm parasite. Yes, deficient hygiene is the main cause for the spread of this parasite. Number 5. Tiny fish in boy's bladder. In India, a 14-year-old child was taken to the hospital after experiencing tremendous pain and trouble urinating. No history of urological issues existed, so doctors ran several tests and eventually figured out what the source of the pain was: a tiny little fish alive inside the child's bladder. Several different methods were attempted in order to remove the fish, but in the end, doctors pulled out the good old ureteroscope. If you're unfamiliar with this apparatus, it's a contraption that pretty much sticks a claw up the tube where you urinate. Yikes. Number 4. 10-pound hairball. Generally speaking, 18-year-old women don't rush to the ER complaining of a 40-pound weight loss. In this case, that weight loss, accompanied by a serious pain in her stomach, caused this young lady to make a trip to the emergency room. After being checked out by doctors, it was discovered that she had a huge hairball inside of her, and it had completely filled every space in her stomach. So how did she get all that hair in her stomach? The answer to that question is actually stranger than the question itself. This young lady literally ate her own hair, a lot of it. And since your body doesn't produce enzymes to process hair, it just stayed there and built up over time. Weird. Number 3. Small fish in boy's lung. When Anil Barela from India was 12 years old, he noticed that he was having trouble breathing after playing in a stream with some friends. He went to seek treatment and ended up having a pretty short and straightforward surgery to fix his breathing issue. It turns out that Anil had some company. A fish measuring 8.9 centimeters was lodged in his lung. Apparently, one popular local pastime is to play a game where you swallow a live fish. Next time, Anil, swallow. Don't inhale. Number 2. Squid Insemination. This one is also not for the squeamish. In South Korea, a lady was eating squid, which is generally served partially boiled. She felt a stinging sensation and spat out the contents of her mouth. Even after this, she kept feeling a sensation of having a foreign body in her gums, cheek, and tongue. Little did she know that while she was eating, the squid's sperm sac burst, causing her to become inseminated. After being examined by doctors, she had 12 small, white, spindle-shaped, bug-like organisms removed. Yeesh. Number 1. Rusty knife. 30-year-old Lee Fuyan was a victim of a burglary, and in an attempt to defend himself, got into a fight with one of the criminals. The burglar stabbed him, just missing his throat and carotid artery. You know, the one that supplies the blood to your head. Lee actually lived with a corroded 4-inch blade in his head for 3 years and didn't even know it. After a standard checkup with his doctors, they found the object in his head and sent him straight to the operating room, where they removed the rusty, broken knife. Believe it or not, living his life with a 4-inch razor-sharp blade in his head, the only thing that Lee complained about was some minor throat bleeding and a few troubles swallowing. If you like this video, why not hit that like button? And remember to hit the subscribe button for more videos every 2 days.